Well, hi there. What would you do if you had this unbelievable enclosure from Dubia.com and $1,000 from Morph Market to put anything you wanted to inside of it? Well, that's the situation I'm in, so let's find out. So I have one of the best difficult decisions ever to make. This enclosure from Dubia.com is epic. It's huge. It has just as much floor space as the 120-gallon enclosure that we built last time, but it's twice as tall. So we have 240 gallons of space, which is enough space for basically any species of reptile or amphibian for a while, if not for life. $1,000 is more than I have ever spent on a single reptile. I have dreamed of spending more, but being a person that lived for several years as a married adult with children on a $12,000 a year graduate stipend, most of my dreams are well within that budget. And given that Morph Market almost certainly has the largest selection of quality animal breeders and pet reptiles ever assembled in one place in the history of the universe, I guess I'm saying that I have a lot of options. The question is really just, what do I want to get? Now, whatever I get, it will most likely live here in Clint's Reptile Room, which is an educational facility open to the public that provides one of, if not the most hands-on reptile experiences that can be had anywhere on Earth. It is thus really important that whatever I get be something that will be comfortable and thrive in that environment. Something that provides a rich and hopefully unique interactive experience for the thousands of people that visit us each year. And with that in mind, I have managed to narrow down my list to 10 species that I think fit that bill really well. So I'll go ahead and tell you which ones I'm considering the most strongly, and then the pros and cons of each. And though there will be some overlap with our last list, this is a very different enclosure, so there will be a lot of new faces. Honestly, mostly new faces. And this time, I'll start with the non-snakes. So this is Clint's Reptile Room, which is the current iteration of what was Clint's Reptile Parties. The business Lehi and I created well over a decade ago when we were living on that meager graduate stipend. And its logo was this chameleon. The chameleon that subsequently was adopted also by this channel, Clint's Reptiles, a few years later when it was created. And though I have owned a couple of chameleons in the past, none have ever gone to a reptile party or lived here in the room. Real ones, that is. There are chameleons all over the place in here. From the doors to the back wall, chameleons are well represented. Well, first on this list would be a panther chameleon, the first real chameleon to ever set mitten into this room. Next would be a lizard that I have loved for years. It was actually one of the first lizards that we reviewed in the early days of this channel. One I've never kept, but have seen in the wild. The Australian water dragon. Third would be an animal that is so unique and special that it requires little introduction. The frilled dragon. Fourth and fifth, two of the three repeats. Banana pectinata and rhino iguanas. Sixth, an animal that I am finally finding captive bred with some regularity. A caiman lizard. Seventh, one of the most unusual and reasonable pet monitors available. The Kimberly rock monitor. And that gets us to the snakes. Eighth on our list is a snake that I really fell in love with last year in South Africa. The dangerously underappreciated Taiwanese beauty snake. How about a venomous snake? Yeah, I think we need one of those on this list. And that would be a snake I fell in love with a couple of years ago when we did a video about them. They're just such a unique snake to handle. The Baron's Racer. And then to round out the list, the third repeat from last time, the epic yellow-tailed Crebo. So those are 10 rather epic reptiles in my estimation. But I can only choose one. So let's dig into the pros and cons of each and see if I can find them right now on Morph Market. Okay, panther chameleon. These guys are fascinating as heck. Chameleons are such bizarre, active, and interesting animals. Their crazy feet, prehensile tails, projectile tongues, color-changing abilities, and independently moving eyeballs make for quite a show. And panther chameleons are arguably the most beautiful and some of the most sociable. That said, chameleons are not that friendly or interested in social interaction. Panthers are better than most, but they're no bearded dragons. They also don't live that long, though panthers live longer than most. And overall, chameleons are fairly fragile and stress easily. There is a reason that we have never had one in the room, and this is that reason. But again, panthers are better than most. So if there ever was a chameleon for the reptile room, this is probably it. And let's see. Yep, there are like 10 million of them on Morph Market right now. Chameleons are often short-lived but highly fecund, which means that they can easily go extinct in the pet trade if not many people are working with them even for a short time. But since this is one of the most popular chameleons to work with, it means they are very, very available. Australian water dragons are epic, impressive lizards. They would be really good for interaction here at the room, and are a species that most people have never seen unless they've been to Australia. I'm about to go back, but on my one day that I have spent in Australia in my life, I saw several of them, and they look rad as heck. Especially males, which have a much larger head and impressive spines. They don't seem as prone to the nose rubbing as their Chinese cousins are, though I adore those as well. And they're more available captive bred than they used to be. That said, all of the Australian water dragons available here are captive bred. The main downsides are just that they're hard to find, though not on Morph Market. There are multiple good options here, but they do need a big enclosure with a water feature, which we could potentially do since these new Dubia.com enclosures have sealed bottoms. We would still need a separate basin to hold the water, but it isn't going to leak everywhere if a little water gets out. That said, their dry origami cousin, the frilled dragon, might be a better choice. Almost nobody in this country has had the experience of interacting with one, but they're legendary and quite well suited to an enclosure of these impressive dimensions, especially the Indonesian dragons, as they're a bit smaller than their Australian cousins. Though I think the Australian frilled dragons look cooler. They're still going to need a lot of feeders, but as long as we can find one, they would be a great choice. And Morph Market comes through again. So we're 3 for 3, and all within our budget. And we're about to go 5 for 5, because banana pectinata and rhino iguanas were on our list last time, and unless something major has changed on Morph Market, we should have multiple options for each. And it looks like we've still got several banana pectinatas and even more rhino iguanas. The pros and cons are the same as last time, but this enclosure is even better suited to these iguanas than was the last. So even though we went a different direction last time, it might have just been because I knew that we had this enclosure coming. These would both be spectacular additions to Clint's reptile room. Both intelligent, personable, awesome-looking herbivorous lizards, just with very different sizes. And I don't know if big is better or if small is better, but this will be a great enclosure for either for a very long time. This next one is one that would not have been on my list not long ago, mostly because they were almost never available captive bred. And I'm not really looking to establish a colony to captive breed them in the near future, though they are in my eventual plans for Clint's reptile room. This is one of the coolest lizards on the planet, and an incredible example of convergent evolution. And that would be the ever so glorious caiman lizard, which looks like a crocodile with a lizard's head and feet. Specifically, a tegu, an orange-headed tegu, though there is a species without an orange head. And these are tegus, just tegus with crocodilian-like bodies, that eat mostly snails and other animals that you might find in and around water, which is simultaneously a pro and a con. These are things that are easy to get if you go to the right places, but those aren't all places that I currently frequent. Like the water dragon, they need a lot of water, but that is again very possible in this enclosure. And like the water dragons, they would use climbing branches as well, so we can use all of the space. And I have been seeing them captive bred recently, but let's see if we can find one right now on Morph Market. Yeah, we've got several. And let's see, captive bred from this place, Iron Mountain Exotics. So that's a total game changer. The last non-snake is another winner, yet another Australian species, and that would be the Kimberley Rock Monitor. A species that most people have never heard of, but that I have long adored. In fact, I think Snake Discovery got them for their zoo on my recommendation. But they've always been too expensive for me to afford. And they still are. On most days. But not today. At least I hope. So let's see if they have any on Morph Market before I get my hopes up too high. And then I'll get to the pros and cons. Not today, because today is a special day. Oh boy, this is a great day. These guys are great. This is a small Ackie-sized monitor with at least as excellent of a personality as Ackies. In some ways, they have a more typical monitor shape than Ackies, but in some ways, they look more like brown vine snakes. A very unique monitor that is highly unlikely to bite, and could live happily for life in an enclosure of these dimensions. Like Ackies, they need a lot of heat and eat small animals, but other than cost and the fact that I already have multiple monitor species at the room, it's hard to find a con with these guys. They're amazing. And that gets us to the snakes. Taiwanese beauty snakes are amazing. I think they're often overshadowed by their slightly blue but better named cousins, the blue beauty snakes, which in my opinion often look better in pictures than they do in real life. I would call them gray beauty snakes. Taiwanese beauty snakes weren't really on my radar until I started seeing them in person in South Africa. I have been in love ever since. So glorious. And being highly arboreal, they would really take advantage of the vertical space in this enclosure. Really, the only con is that they can be a bit grumpy like most beauty snakes. But most of the snakes raised here at the room quickly learn that humans are not a threat and become delightful. Even our lazy biting emerald tree boa is coming around, though it has cost some of the finest blood of this generation. And I had never seen blood spray from a person because of a snake bite before, but now I have. Fortunately, a bite from a Taiwanese beauty snake is nothing like an adult emerald tree boa. In fact, it would be the best of the 3 snakes on my list to be bitten by. So, can we find one on Morph Market? Yep, but not too many of them. I kind of have a feeling, no matter what I decide, I should probably get one before this video comes out. These could easily go the way of emerald tree skinks for me. What a special snake. So that was the least nasty bite of any of the snakes on this list. This beautiful snake, the Baron's Racer, is venomous, but not nearly as venomous as it is wonderful. So though I would rather be bitten by a Taiwanese beauty snake, I wouldn't be too worried about death or long-term injury from a bite from one of these. It wouldn't even be the most venomous snake at Clint's Reptile Room. But the venom isn't as trivial as that of, say, a garter snake or even a hognose. It's legit, but they don't tend to bite. They will make legendary use of an enclosure of these dimensions, and they are unlike any of the snakes in the room to handle. I concluded, the day that we reviewed them, that we needed one at the room. The only thing that has been holding me back is the price. And, let's see, looking on Morph Market, that doesn't seem like something that is going to be an issue today. The final snake and reptile on my list is this one, the yellow-tailed crebo. This is probably the least arboreal of the snakes on this list, but it might be the snake I want the most. The truth is that it is a snake that could become my favorite species. Right now, false water cobras hold that title. And it would be very, very difficult to dethrone them. They're just about perfect. I just love huge, intelligent colubrids. And false water cobras are as huge and intelligent as it gets. Longer than eastern indigos, but maybe not quite as big as they can get. Because yellow-tailed crebos, often just called indigo snakes, appear to get slightly larger still. And crebos are always alert and intelligent. If there was ever a snake that might overtake false water cobras in my heart, it might be these. And if they don't, they might come close. Plus, they aren't venomous, which is a plus, given that it would be an ambassador animal. Of course, they do spray poop and eat snakes, so there are some real cons. But that is the list. And now I have to select just one of them. So which one would you pick? Okay, so I've made my selection. Now I just need to get that ordered. All right, let's get to work on that enclosure, and then I'll show you what I got. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
This is the bottom. And we're going to be taking advantage of that this time around. Okay, so I think these are both back panels. because they don't have any holes in them, is a side panel. Okay. That looks great. So everything's present and accounted for. Now we just have to build it. And we know from before that building it is remarkably easy. They've replaced the mallet, which was really pretty easy to use, with this as the only tool you need to build this entire thing. And it's even stronger than it was before. I really think that this is the easiest to assemble enclosure that I've seen, at least among those that ship flat. This is incredible. They took what was already the best one of these and somehow made it considerably better. Stronger and easier to do and simple. I've never had any instructions. So these things are what they use so that you can bring out cords without having a whole big hole for something to get out, and so you can close it up or expand them. They install really nicely. There's two pieces. They just come unscrewed like this. You put this portion through there, and then you thread this part back on the inside. Then this cap just goes on the hole, let's see, like that. Seals up. Because we've got some plans for this enclosure, unlike anything we've ever done on this channel before. In fact, unlike anything I've ever done before, so hopefully it all comes together. We're down to our last couple of steps. Step one, install the final door. Step two, see how spacious it is. Oh yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I think I can make this work. Not too shabby at all. So let's get building. All right, so the first thing I need to do is get the doors off of this, because I need to start putting some things in here just to see what will fit. The animal that I've selected requires an enclosure a little bit unlike any enclosure I've ever built before. And so I'm gonna have to be doing a few experiments. First things first, I just gotta get the things in there and see what it looks like. So let's get these doors off and get to work. So I've got a few little supplies. Truth is, I don't know what I'm gonna need and what I'm not gonna need, so I'm just gonna have to figure it out as I go. I got this. This is actually, interestingly enough, is exactly the same as a tub that I had for Gus Gus. This tub was supposed to be a water bowl for Gus Gus, but he decided it should be flipped over and be used as a hide, even though it has no entrance. He knew how to use it as a hide. It was just perfect, and so this was his hide. This is a new one, but it was exactly the same thing. And it is perfect? Maybe? I don't know if we're gonna have room for all this. This might be actually in some ways a little bit easier than I thought. So something that I love about these new reptile habitats enclosures, a major improvement over what was already a spectacular enclosure, is that now the bottom is sealed. I don't intend to lose any water, or not very much, but if I do, it's not going to leak out in the way that pretty much all of these PVC enclosures that ship flat will, because they sealed it up. Oh, it's so good. Okay, well, I think I know what we're going to do now, and I'm pretty excited about it. The first thing I need to do is drill a hole in this so that the water from the pump can enter this basin. This is going to be our high pond, and then there's going to be a low pond down here. I'm going to start off, so I've got these two parts. I think I'm actually just going to need an O-ring on the water side, but I want to bring that down into this bucket. And what I'm thinking, so this is going to slightly overhang. So this pond is going to slightly overhang this pond. And if I bring it up through the bottom above this pond, A, it'll largely conceal my hose, which will come up here in this corner, and B, it makes it so if it ever does leak, it's just going to leak into the other pond, and that won't be that big of a deal because we've got plans for that anyway. Okay, so I'm going to mark about where I think I'd like that to come in, which is here in this corner. And we're going to try to drill it out. Hopefully, this is just a little bit narrower than the threads, but my other one is a little bit too big, so hopefully it'll thread through once we do that. But I'm going to start off with a smaller bit, just so I don't crack this, if I can help it. We might ruin everything and need to make a trip to the store. We'll find out. Okay, this might reach far enough, but I'm going to use the bucket. And we're going to find out if this seal is going to keep the water in. Not a drop in the sink. Oh, I think we've done it. These weren't even with the plumbing supplies. These were for electrical conduit. I'm very happy with that indeed. And like I said, because of where we're putting it, even if it fails, it's just going to end up draining into the bigger pond. Wouldn't be the end of the world. Oh yay. Here's a little experiment we're doing, which is the water going to shoot out of the top? Because that could still be a problem. It is sort of angled in the right way now, that at least if it shoots over the top, it's going to go into the other basin, most likely. But we're going to start with it empty, but with our hose uncut. So this at its lowest setting. So it may or may not shoot out. This is going to be exciting here in a second. We'll go ahead and plug the hose in. Toss them in the bucket of water. Now for the moment of truth. Okay, ready? Steady. Go. Oh! Oh!
Not too bad.
Just as it fills up.
That'll inhibit it.
Yeah, at some point this is going to overflow. But at some point, yes, so slowing it down already. This is giving us an idea how high we're going to need to cut it. Well, that went great. That went super great. We were right at the edge, but as long as we leave it on the lowest setting and leave all this hose on there, we know we'll never have a problem with it shooting out of there, even if this upper bin is empty. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drill the holes for the waterfall, because that's what we're building, in case you haven't figured it out. We're going to drill some holes near the top here for the water to come out, and then I'm going to test it one more time just to make sure that we're not adding water faster than the water can get out, because then this would end up overflowing everywhere, and even though this is sealed, this isn't a pelletarium. It would turn into one, and we don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and drill those holes. I'm going to use, actually, I think the same bit that I used before, because I know exactly how I could seal them up, or I could add one of these same types of pieces that I got before if I need to extend them out a little bit. So we've got a few different options if I use exactly this same one. So I'll drill 3 little holes first, and then we'll drill the big holes and test it out. So you might notice I'm making all these holes on this side. This is the pond side of the bucket. I don't want them draining back behind the pond. That would be a problem. Now you notice I'm going kind of slow when I do this, and the reason I'm going so slow is if you push too hard, sometimes you can end up cracking the plastic, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm just letting this do all the work, trying not to push my way through. Let's go test it again. Let's give it a try. See if it overshoots the bucket anyway.
Ready?
Yep. There it goes. Still just barely not coming out of the bucket.
Oh, there it goes.
You got that underwater again?
Yeah.
I'm going to leave this here for just a second. And then I'm going to see if I can prop it up a little more. What I'm going to do now is I think I'm going to cut out the sections between the holes and try to turn this into a big long slit instead of 3 holes that could easily be blocked and that might not be enough flow to keep up with that pump. Commence the next test. Go time. I'm going to pour that water in. Okay, I think we've got this figured out so that we know it'll work and it won't end in some catastrophic disaster. But it doesn't look very natural, does it? So let's see what we can do about that. just like with the backdrop, got to push down on it pretty regularly. We've now given this a little bit of time to cure. It's not inflating anymore. I'm gonna, before I take the clamp off, I'm gonna start scratching off the sand from around the sides just to make sure it's as set up as I think. I can always throw the sand back on, but it'll be hard if the rock falls off. And that is looking good. Neat. Okay.
That's cool.
That's rad. See how we're doing so far. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Now that we've pretty much got that portion done, we're gonna pull the pond out of here, lay this on its back, and start fiddling around with the lace rock and other things that we might add to this background to give it a little depth. So I've got already, we've marked off approximately the height of the pond in blue tape. The pond's actually a little bit higher than that, so I don't want to put any rocks or large features, until we get a few inches above that. However, I can go pretty much that low with the Gorilla Glue itself. This background is enormous, and so I may end up doing it in 2 parts. We'll see how that goes. Just pushing it all down all at the same time, it's very hard to keep all of it from just bursting through, even on just one that's half this size. This enclosure is enormous, but it's incredible, and I'm excited about it. So I'm going to start putting some things in there and just seeing what we might build. I'm so happy with the way that it turned out last time that I can have a little more confidence. That was an experiment last time. This time we're doing something that's proven to be awesome. I've been soaking some eco-earth blocks. I've got some sphagnum moss and some sand, and so I'm going to make some of our backdrop substrate mixture. So that's pretty easy to do. And I've got a little experiment for today, which is I'm going to try doing this backdrop a third at a time. Do it in 3 pieces. And I've never tried doing that before, but just keeping on top of a backdrop that large is so difficult to do, and I think we can get it to come together really nice. Okay, get some of this in there. I'll set that right there. So as I said, I've never done this before, but I'm so far really happy because on an enclosure even half the size of this one, I am usually putting out fires as Gorilla Glue bubbles through all the time. On this one, I hardly had that problem at all because I did it in 2 small patches. And so now what I need to do though, is I need to clear as much of the substrate as I can off of the open patches that I still need to do. And especially near the borders, I'm going to need to scrape it off. So I think we're getting close if we're not all the way there. Yeah, this is ready. So that's hard underneath already. So I'm going to push this substrate back all the way up. I'm just going to heap it on top of the substrate that's already here. I will use some of it. I'll scrape it onto the new Gorilla Glue once I put it down. But right now I just need to clean up these patches. So got some paintbrushes to make that a little easier. Oh yeah, look at that. So I'm going to move these rocks off. They're going basically dead center, just like that. Okay. Now the thing I want to make sure that I do is I want to put my new Gorilla Glue really close, even on top of this old patch here, so that I make sure that there are no gaps between sections. But I think this is going to look really nice. Okay. I'm going to do all the way over to this side, and this one, we're just going to do this whole zone right here. Okay, so this last part is finishing up right now. Here in a moment, we're going to pull off as much substrate as we can. We'll stand it up, and we'll move it back over to the studio so we can finish this whole thing up. I'm actually really happy so far. I mean, we'll see when we pull everything off, but I'm really happy with this doing it in pieces technique. I've never done that before, but on a backdrop this big, it is just such a nightmare. I think this is totally the way to do it, and I can't wait to see it. So let's get it over there. Let's get the pond in there. Now we're going to give this a little bit of time to dry so we can get all of the substrate off the back, but in the meantime, I want to put the pond in place just to start to get an idea what this is going to look like. Okay. Oh man. That looks so cool. Oh, that's rad as heck. That is rad as heck right there. All right, we've given this now enough time to dry out. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the lights on top. Not that we actually need them yet, but it's just going to allow us to see what's going on in here a little bit better. Then I'm going to pull the pond out so I can get as much of the remaining substrate off of the back as possible. I just don't want it cascading into the water later on. It's going to happen, but if I can get most of it off now, it won't happen too much. So let's get to work. Now, this enclosure is ginormous, so just for positioning these lights, I'm going to need a stepladder. Okay. Here's a little clue maybe as to what we're getting, because once again, I've got a big boy heat lamp and a 125 watt light bulb, which is a pretty substantial UVA light. Let's see here. So this is for heat. One thing I haven't mentioned yet, we're going to be heating this pond. And we also have a pump down there. We're going to have UVA and UVB lamps up top. It's getting to be a lot of electrical. And so we've got a surge protector here with 6 outlets that we're going to put up on top. And that's going to be our our source of power for everything. We'll just plug it in once instead of 4 or 5 times. So anyway, we'll get this all set up and see where we are. Once again, we're going to be using this LED UVB fixture. I was really happy actually with the last one that we got. And so we'll get this together and up on top and get ourselves all set up. Okay. One really cool change they made with this enclosure is they made this mesh on top they made the holes larger. They're still plenty small, like only the tiniest of reptiles would get through this, and you wouldn't be keeping such tiny reptiles in this enclosure. But it does allow you to use zip ties to hold things in place. And I don't yet know exactly where I'm going to want all of my light fixtures exactly, but I can at least go ahead and zip tie this power bar into place so that it doesn't fall off on me later. Let's see, that's the power. There's the actual power switch. I go start on top here. Wouldn't be insanely hard to move that later, but it'll at least keep it from falling off of there. That looks like that's working. I'm just going to go ahead and pull all this out. This actually can stay. It's not a problem if it gets soil on it. But let's get as much of this down as we can. I'm going to grab a paintbrush. Just like before, we're going to start on top. Just get as much off of the top as you can. It's going to rain down, but if you start at the top, you don't have to do the top, or you don't have to do the bottom a bunch of times. So we've got a little hole here, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do something about this one. So I'm going to show you what to do about holes like those, and then maybe even we might even take care of this one right here. And then we'll get the pond back in there, and I'll show you how to start making that look even more naturalistic than it already does. All right. So here's what we're going to do about our 3 holes. First thing, arguably 4. Let's go ahead and patch 4 holes. We're going to get the area wet again, because this is Gorilla Glue and it's water activated. So we're going to hit all 4 of those spots where we want to add a little more. I'm going to take my Gorilla Glue, and I'm going to hold it up against the back like that, and I'm just going to let some Gorilla Glue fall onto it. It doesn't need to fill the whole spot, and then you just smash a handful of substrate on it. The end. There we go. Hit it. I don't really want it to drip down too far. It might not be the perfect patch. Get it all out. That's better. I've had kind of a fun idea, which is here where I've got a little bit of Gorilla Glue dripping down. I'm actually going to use a little moss, and I'm going to see if I can glue this moss into place. Try that there, and I might try it a couple other spots as well. That's starting to look really cool. What I think I'm going to do now, I've still got this big front lip, and I've got some big gaps in here where this piece is not too well connected. Most of these are looking pretty good now. What a lot of people don't know is that Great Stuff expanding foam is essentially exactly the same thing as Gorilla Glue. It's just aerosolized, so it puffs up a lot more, a lot faster. What I'm thinking about doing is injecting a little bit in here just to strengthen this hold. And then what I think I might do is I might put some right around these portions of the enclosure and then put some substrate on it. I've never done that before, but I think we can get it to look pretty naturalistic. If not, I can peel it off and try something else. But that's going to be my experiment for right now. So let's get a can of Great Stuff ready and go to town. Okay, so I've got a little Mopani wood, a little more lace rock, and this pothos might come in really handy. Really, really handy. Let's see here. Oh, like it was made for that. Oh. Okay, I think that can move. Oh, that was big. That branch was a big deal. That did a lot for this. Okay, so now I think we've got an enclosure that's pretty close to ready to go, but we need to get it to the ground. It is way up in the sky. So we've got one of our tables here. This is the roller skid that I just built. This is what the enclosure is going to be on. We try to make everything in the reptile room have the ability to be moved. And this is actually going to be the base of a tower with our last enclosure as well. I'll show you something really cool that they sent in addition. So let's get it to the ground so we can get some water in there and see how this thing works. Okay.
Fingers.
Woo! Can you get in? Here, Jason.
Going down.
Easy peasy. Whee!
Yeah. Nice.
It wasn't easy, but we got it to the ground. And now we can put the lights back on. We can throw some water in here. Well, we got to clean it up a little. Get some water in here. See what it really looks like. Let's get all the cables in place. This is our pump again. I've also got an aquarium heater. We'll get both of those wired up. Here's the moment of truth. Plug in the heater first, so don't expect anything exciting immediately. And now the pump. Here we go. Oh boy.
It's working.
It's working, it's working! No leaks down below. Okay. It looks like everything works. Everything's beautiful. Let's get the doors on this and find out what we're putting inside. Okay, let's find out who's going inside. All right, guys, moment of truth. Do you know what this is? This is a captive bred baby caiman lizard. It comes to us from Iron Mountain Exotics, and it just arrived here today. I'm gonna try to get him in here so he can chill out as soon as possible. This is going to be an absolute palace for this little guy, and I can't wait to watch him explore it. Let's get him in there. Let's explore this. Let's see how long that is. That's just right, I think. And right there. Where do you want to be, dude? I just want to say thank you so much to Dubia.com for providing this amazing enclosure, for Morph Market for allowing us to get this incredible caiman lizard, for Iron Mountain Exotics for breeding captive bred caiman lizards. I've been waiting years and years for this moment, and I can hardly believe it has finally arrived. Thank you guys so much for being here. As always, like and subscribe, and hope to see you real soon. Little clamp is tremendous. I don't even know why such a little clamp existed until today.
For this very purpose.
Yeah. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what I've ever done with it.
What kind of idiot buys this kind of crap?
Yeah, okay. Over the years, we've often asked ourselves, what would we do without Jason? And now we know we'd have to get one of these Sterilite bins. Yep, pretty soon it'll just be a tripod, a Sterilite bin, and AI.